I'm Jessica, 30, female. I live in a quiet, tree-lined suburb that's just close enough to the city to be convenient and just far enough away to be boring. I'm a software engineer, working remotely from a home office that I meticulously designed to be my sanctuary. For the last 5 years, I've shared this sanctuary and my life with my husband, Tom. He's a marketing manager, ambitious and charismatic, the kind of man everyone's parents love. Our life, from the outside, was a perfect blueprint of modern success. But blueprints can be deceiving. They show you the structure, but they don't show you the cracks forming in the foundation. This story is about how I, in an attempt to fix those cracks, ended up bringing the whole house down on top of me. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Our marriage hadn't gone bad overnight. It was a slow fade. Tom and I had been together since college, and we were great partners. We managed finances, split chores, and planned vacations with the efficiency of a small corporation. But somewhere along the line, the passion had evaporated. We were roommates who signed anniversary cards. I was 30, he was 32, and the idea of this comfortable bait, colored silence stretching out for the next 50 years, terrified me. I work in code. I build logical systems. I thought our relationship was just a system that needed a new input. So I did the research. I read articles, listened to podcasts, and convinced myself that non-monogamy was the solution. It was modern, it was progressive, and it was, I argued, a way to bring excitement back into our lives without betraying each other. Think about it, Tom, I said one evening, over a takeout meal that had become our default. We're just stuck. This isn't about leaving each other. It's about finding new energy and bringing it back to each other. Honesty, rules, communication. Tom was resistant. He was traditional, a why fix what isn't broken kind of guy. But I knew how to press his buttons. I framed it as a failure of our spark, something I was feeling, which made him feel like he was failing me. After weeks of persistent, logical arguments, I wore him down. He agreed, but with a reluctance that should have been a red flag the size of a billboard. His one condition was simple. We don't tell anyone, Jess, not my family, not our friends. This is for us, and we are each other's priority, always. I agreed instantly, so thrilled to have gotten my way that I didn't see the flaw in the logic. We weren't fixing a problem. I was just getting permission to create a new one. The beginning of the end wasn't the arguments or the silence. It was the moment he said yes to an idea he hated just to shut me up. And it was the moment I, a software engineer, ignored the most basic rule. A system under stress doesn't need new, chaotic variables. It needs stability. The rules were simple. We could see other people, but it was just for physical connection. No emotions, no dates, and always protection. We would tell each other before meeting anyone new, and we had veto power. Tom, to my surprise, didn't seem interested in participating. He just nodded along, his eyes glued to his work laptop. You go ahead, Jess, he'd said. I'm buried in this Q4 launch. He didn't use his new freedom, but I did. That's how I met Alex. Alex was everything Tom wasn't. He was a 28-year-old personal trainer at the expensive gym I joined as part of my New Life campaign. He was spontaneous, uncomplicated, and focused entirely on the physical world. Our first few sessions were electric. He made me feel seen, desired, and alive in a way I hadn't in years. It was supposed to be simple. It was supposed to be just sex, but the lines blurred, as they always do. Alex was a good listener, or at least he pretended to be. I started complaining about Tom's long hours, about the emotional distance. Alex would just nod, rub my shoulder, and tell me I deserved to feel good. I told myself I was being honest. I'd go home and tell Tom, I'm going to see Alex tonight. And Tom would just look up from his spreadsheet and say, okay, don't be home too late. We have that thing with my parents on Saturday. His lack of jealousy, his total disinterest, should have scared me. Instead, it felt like a green light. It felt like he didn't care. So I stopped caring. I stopped being careful. The rules became suggestions. Alex and I went for dinner. We went for drinks. I told myself it wasn't emotional, but I was lying. And then came the biggest lie. One night at his apartment, things were heating up, and we realized neither of us had protection. It's fine, right? He whispered. You're in an open thing. You're clean, I'm clean. Let's just be in the moment. And I, high on the validation and the cheap wine, agreed. It was a single reckless decision. A tiny, momentary lapse in judgment that would set my entire world on fire. It was the match. The gasoline had been pooling around me for months. It started about 3 weeks later. It was subtle at first. A mild discomfort I wrote off as a yeast infection, a reaction to new laundry detergent, or just stress. I'm a coder. I sit all day. I convinced myself it was just a side effect of my job. I bought some over-the-counter cream and tried to ignore it, but it didn't go away. It got worse. The discomfort bloomed into a persistent, undeniable itch, accompanied by a feeling of unease that settled deep in my stomach. I became paranoid. I'd rush to the bathroom multiple times a day at home, terrified Tom would notice my new anxiety. I found myself snapping at him over small things, like him leaving a cup on the counter. "What's wrong with you, Jess?" he asked one night, genuinely confused by my short temper. "You've been on edge all week." "It's just work." I lied, my skin crawling. "This new project build is a nightmare." I stopped seeing Alex. I deleted his number. My text to him a cold, "I'm getting busy, this isn't working." He didn't text back. He had already served his purpose, and I, apparently, had served his. The electric connection was as deep as a puddle. The fear was cold and constant. I'd sit in my beautiful, quiet office, staring at lines of code, but all I could see was that one stupid, reckless moment in Alex's apartment. I'd Google my symptoms in incognito mode, my heart hammering against my ribs as the search results painted a grim picture. The logical part of my brain, the part that debugs complex systems, knew exactly what I had to do. I had to get tested. But the human part of me, the part that was terrified and ashamed, kept putting it off. I was living in a state of suspended terror, a Schrodinger's cat of infection. As long as I didn't know for sure, I could pretend I was fine, but the physical reality couldn't be ignored. The itch was a constant, humiliating reminder. It was a physical manifestation of my guilt, and it was screaming at me. I finally made the appointment, using a fake name at a clinic across town. I felt like a criminal, walking in with my sunglasses on, hoping no one would recognize me. The denial was over. Now I just had to wait for the verdict. The clinic was painted in that specific, depressing shade of pale green meant to be calming, but which only screams sickness. I sat in the waiting room, fiddling with my phone, unable to focus. My leg bounced so hard the woman next to me shot me an annoyed look. "Jessica." The nurse called. I flinched, even though I'd used my real first name for the appointment. The doctor was a kind, no-nonsense woman in her 50s. She listened to my mumbled, edited-down story. "I've been with a new partner recently." I'd said, the words tasting like ash. She didn't judge. She just nodded, ran the tests, and told me the results would be back in 2 days. Those 2 days were the longest 48 hours of my life. I barely slept. I couldn't eat. I sat at my desk, pushing code to the server, my mind a million miles away. Tom was busy with his Q4 launch, working late at the office, and for the first time in our marriage, I was grateful for his absence. I couldn't look him in the eye. The call came while I was in the middle of a debugging session. I saw the clinic's number, and my blood ran cold. I stepped out onto the back patio, my hand shaking. "Jessica." It was the doctor. Her voice was gentle, which was worse. "Your test results came back. The screening was positive for HSV2. Herpes." The word hit me like a physical blow. I had to sit down on the patio steps, the phone pressed hard against my ear. She kept talking, explaining that it was manageable, that it wasn't a life war. Death diagnosis, talking about antiviral medication and transmission. I heard none of it. All I heard was the word, over and over. Permanent, incurable. I had brought a permanent, incurable disease into my marriage. "You will need to inform your husband," she said, her voice cutting through my panic. "He will need to be tested as well." I hung up the phone, and for a full 10 minutes, I just sat there, hollowed out. The shame was so profound it was almost physical, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I, the logical one, the smart one, the one who had all the answers, had been undone by the stupidest, most primitive mistake. I had to tell Tom. I had to tell the man I'd pushed into this, the man I had betrayed not just emotionally, but physically. I had no idea that the clinical diagnosis was the easy part. The real fallout was yet to come. I rehearsed the conversation 100 times. I'd sit him down, I'd cry, I'd apologize, I'd beg for forgiveness. I planned to do it that night, but he came home late, exhausted and smelling like beer. "Team celebration," he mumbled, falling into bed. The next day, I cornered him at breakfast. My hands were clammy, and I'm sure I looked as sick as I felt. "Tom," I started, my voice trembling, "we need to talk. It's serious." He put down his coffee, his eyes instantly sharp. When I'm serious, I'm serious. I told him everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him about Alex, about the one night, about the symptoms, and about the doctor's call. I told him I had HSV too. I braced for the explosion. For the yelling, the accusations, the throwing of plates, that's what I'd seen in movies, that's what I deserved. But Tom did none of that. He just sat there, staring at his coffee cup for what felt like an eternity. He didn't look at me. When he finally spoke, his voice was terrifyingly calm. It was the voice he used for difficult clients, a smooth, detached marketing. Manager voice. I see, he said. He nodded slowly. Well, that is a development. Tom, please. I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Say something. Yell at me. Please, yell. He finally looked up, and his eyes were cold, not angry, not sad. Just empty. Why would I yell, Jess? This is what you wanted, isn't it? Excitement, new energy. He practically spat the words. You just brought back a little more than you bargained for. He stood up, rinsed his cup, and put it in the dishwasher. I need to get tested, he said, as if discussing a dentist appointment. I'll go to my own doctor. What are we going to do? I choked out, we. He said, adjusting his tie, are going to get through this. We have my father's retirement dinner on Saturday. My sister Emily is flying in. We are going to go, we are going to smile, and we are not going to ruin my father's night. We can discuss the logistics of this after. I was so desperate for any scrap of normalcy, any sign that we could fix this, that I agreed. Okay, yes, you're right. We can keep it together for one night. For the next 3 days, he was the perfect husband. He was polite. He was considerate. He asked me if I'd picked up my prescription. He confirmed what I was wearing to the dinner. This calculated, cold kindness was so much worse than rage. I was walking on eggshells, terrified of setting off the bomb I knew I'd planted. I didn't realize he was just waiting for the right moment to hit the detonator. The dinner was at a private room in an old, expensive Italian restaurant. Tom's family was there. His father, Robert, a retired teacher with a booming voice and a moral compass made of iron, and his older sister, Emily, a nurse who always looked at me like I was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. They were good people, traditional people, and they adored Tom. I was a nervous wreck. I'd spent 2 hours on my makeup, trying to hide the dark circles under my eyes. Tom, on the other hand, was the picture of calm. He was charming, greeting his family, ordering the best wine, and telling a funny story about his Q4 launch. He was the perfect doting son and husband. He even put his arm around me, squeezing my shoulder. You look beautiful, honey, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I leaned into him, so grateful for this public show of unity that I almost believed it. The dinner went on. We toasted Robert's career. We ate pasta. I drank wine, probably too much, trying to numb the knot in my stomach. Tom was attentive to me, refilling my glass, laughing at my small talk. Then it was time for dessert. Before we get the tiramisu, Tom said, standing up. He tapped his wine glass with a spoon. The room went quiet. I'd like to make a toast, not just to Dad, but to my wife, Jessica. I blushed, smiling nervously. What was he doing, Dad? He said, turning to Robert. You and Mom taught me the value of honesty, of commitment, and of family, and I've always tried to live up to that. He turned to me, and his smile didn't reach his cold, cold eyes. And Jessica, here, has been teaching me some new values, the value of openness, the importance of new energy. My smile froze, the blood drained from my face. Emily was looking at me, her brow furrowed. You see, family, Tom continued, his voice silky smooth and projecting to every corner of the room. Jessica and I have been in an open marriage for the last few months. It was her idea, of course. She's the modern, progressive one. She needed excitement. Tom. I hissed, my voice a tiny thread. Stop, don't. He ignored me. She went out and found her excitement. A personal trainer, I believe, very physical. And she was so excited, she decided to bring a little souvenir from her adventure back to our marriage. Robert looked baffled. Tom, what on earth are you talking about? He's talking about the souvenir, Dad, Tom said, his voice rising in that fake, cheerful way. The one she gave to me, and the one she gave to herself, we're a sharing couple, you see. Jessica, why don't you tell them about your new prescription? Tell them about HSV2. The silence in the room was absolute. It was so total, I could hear the tiny clink of ice in my water glass. Emily, the nurse, gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror and, worse, comprehension. Robert just stared at me, his face a mask of confusion and slow, awning disgust. Tom, I whispered, tears burning my eyes. Please. So, let's toast, he said, raising his glass high, to Jessica, for her honesty, her modern thinking, and for giving me a gift that truly, truly keeps on giving. Congratulations, Dad. Your son is now part of a very exclusive club. He drank. No one else moved. I stared at him, the man I'd known for half my life, and I saw a stranger. This wasn't grief. This wasn't anger. This was a public execution. He had waited. He had gathered his family. And he had, with surgical precision, destroyed me in front of them, using my own failure as his weapon. He hadn't just exposed me. He'd salted the earth. I don't remember leaving. I think I ran. I remember pushing my chair back so hard it screeched against the floor, and then I was outside in the cold night air, hyperventilating, the sound of Emily's sharp Thomas, my God, echoing behind me. I took a cab home. I didn't go into our home. I went to my home office, which had a separate entrance from the garden. I locked the door, sank onto the floor, and just broke. Tom came home hours later. I heard his car door slam. He didn't come to the office. He didn't text. He didn't call. The next morning, I packed a bag. I went to a hotel. My phone was a wasteland, no calls from Tom, no texts. The only message I had was from Emily, and it was brutal. I don't know what you thought would happen, but you deserve each other. Don't you ever contact my father again. He's devastated. The reckoning wasn't just about the disease. The reckoning was the total and complete annihilation of my life. I had initiated the open marriage to solve a problem of boring and comfortable. And now I was alone in a sterile hotel room, diagnosed with a permanent STD, and publicly humiliated by the man I'd tried to fix. Tom filed for divorce a week later. His lawyer was apparently Rebecca, his other sister, the one I'd only met twice, the one who was a partner at a shark-filled downtown law firm. The paperwork was swift and brutal. He got the house. His name was on the original mortgage, and my behavior, which he had his family to witness, was cited. I didn't even fight. I just signed. I moved into a small apartment across town. I still work as a software engineer, but from a different desk in a different room. Fire from Alex burned out instantly. He's a ghost, a symptom of my own deep-seated unhappiness. Tom got his revenge. He got to play the stoic victim, the man betrayed, and he used his family dinner as a stage. He didn't just expose my secret. He exposed his own cruelty. He proved that his traditional values were just a cover for a cold, calculated vindictiveness I had never seen. I made the mistake. I carry the consequences, physically and emotionally, every single day. I own that. I was reckless, I was selfish, and I was stupid, but his revenge taught me that there are two people in every failed marriage, and sometimes the one who looks like the victim is just the one who was better at planning the ambush. I'm starting over. I'm debugging my own life, one line of broken code at a time. It's a long, slow process, and I'm not sure what the final build will look like, but I'm writing it alone.